What is going on, investors? Hopefully you guys are doing well out there. That's right. It's time for our Saturday stock show where we talk about a little bit of the news that happened last week in the stock market and give you a preview of what potentially could be coming in the coming week when it comes to stocks, finance, and in some cases, cryptocurrency as well. On today's show, I'll run down the S&P 500, the Nasdaq. We'll take a look at a little bit of news from Apple, Pinterest, Coinbase IPO, or actually a direct listing. We are going to talk about Dogecoin today as well. So we'll talk about Dogecoin's epic rise over the last week. Take a look at the stock chart or the crypto chart on that one, see where that one could potentially be heading as well. And then I'll also reveal we have tons of earnings. If you like videos and if you like earnings reports videos, stay tuned to the channel. I tell you what, we've got tons of videos. I'll show you which companies are reporting earnings next week. It's a lot of interesting ones as we move into next week. And then finally, I'll do something I've done here on the channel. It's been a while, but I'll give you a portfolio reveal. I'll show you all the stocks in my portfolio. I'll reveal my IRA account where I've got a little bit of money. I'll show you my Robinhood account where I've got a little bit more money in crypto in there as well. And I'll show you my Coinbase account where I've got a little bit of crypto in there. We'll talk about the kind of things that I'm thinking about in terms of investments as we move through this year. Full transparency here on the Investor Channel. Not a lot of channels doing that out there. So let's talk about the S&P 500 this year to date, up 10%. We see this big, gigantic green leg. Okay, I like to take big, broad views of things. If you're day trading or you're trying to, churn out a profit kind of trading, well, I think you could take a little bit more micro view on things, but I tend to be a buy and hold investor. I like to see we got a big old green leg on the S&P 500. Typically, when you see this, you think some red legs are going to start showing up. We'll see what happens. We'll wait for that to happen as we move into earnings season. It's really going to pick up as we move into next week. The QQQ has not done quite as well as S&P 500, but it is up 8%. And again, we have a big red leg candle on the big green candles, on this Nasdaq chart as well. We'll see if that can continue or if this consolidates sideways or we see a little bit of a reversal or a little bit of pullback in the markets. Now, in terms of what could be a catalyst for that, we've got a ton of earnings next week, okay? Not just next week, but the next couple weeks, really the next 2 weeks. We'll have all the major companies report from all the FANG names, but also a lot of industrials. We got more banks. We've got companies like AT&T, Intel. These types of companies are all going to report over the next few weeks. So we could see some major action in the stock market. I would encourage you to stay tuned to all the investment activities that you have, but particularly this channel as well. On 419, we've got Coca-Cola. United Airlines is on 419 as well. Now, 420 is a big day. I know for a lot of people, not for myself, maybe back when I was in college and those types of things. 420 could be a big day for a lot of people out there, but it's going to be a big day here on the investment channel as well, because we've got Johnson & Johnson earnings, Harley-Davidson, Lockheed Martin, Netflix, Procter & Gamble are all reporting on that day. The following day, 421, got some big companies as well. Verizon, Chipotle, Las Vegas Sands, which I think sold the Venetian and the Palazzo. So I think we'll see if they've changed their name. I thought they might have changed their name. We'll see if that is for sure or not. We've got Halliburton as well on 421. On 422, big day actually here on the channel. We'll cover at least 3 of these companies. You got 422 is AT&T, Intel. We'll do both those companies for sure. You got American Airlines. You got Snapchat, which we tend to cover here on the channel as well. And then you got American Express wrapping up the week. AXP. So lots of stocks. I mean, there was more than this, okay? There was even more significant companies of this. This is just the ones I decided to cover here on the stock show on Saturday. Hopefully you guys are having a great week out there. Maybe consider hitting that like button as well. That does help our channel out. I got a lot of subscribers here on the channel, but we can always use more help whenever we can get it. And I appreciate you guys out there watching. Now, bank stock dip after Q1 earnings beat and bonds yield drop. So we'll talk about bond yields really quick. I know this is kind of a dry topic. Might not be something that everybody is super excited about, but here's the deal is when we see as these bond yields went up, that's actually when we saw kind of the QQQ come down. That's when when we saw the S&P 500 didn't have quite as big a drawdown. But as we're seeing bond yields, you see here, they started rolling over at the end of March. And guess what? End of March was right when these green candles started showing up on these major indices. So as we see bond yields drop, stocks tend to rise. As we see yields go up, as they did really since October, November of last year, they've just kind of steadily been climbing up. Well, markets tend to not like that. And so we're keeping a close eye on bond yields. I think there's we're at an interesting spot here. I think this one could easily, if we break 1.5% on this is on the 10-year yield, boy, we could see a bigger drawdown. Now, TradingView wants me to sign up. Maybe I should probably do that. Maybe at some point. But overall, we're keeping a close eye on bond yields. Now, what's interesting is that the XLF ETF has just been on fire. So I know the headlines on this is bank stocks dip and bond yields drop, things like that. But here's the XLF, which is a extraordinarily popular ETF for all the bank stocks. It consolidates quite a few of them, especially the major ones like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, those types of stocks. It also has some regional banks in there as well. This thing has been locked in an uptrend, and for now, it is going to stay in an uptrend, in my opinion, for a little while until we get a break below kind of this lower channel that I have here. So bank stocks, in my opinion, looking good. Any kind of reversal, any kind of breakdown. We saw that it actually broke down here. So you had kind of a similar uptrend here, and then it broke down. That was potentially a buying opportunity because look, you've gone from about $32 all the way up to about $35 on this one. That's almost a 10% move on this ETF. Bank stocks, when we get over to my portfolio reveal, play a small role, but it's something that I want to consistently add to. It's something that I do like to have exposure to. Now, moving on to more news. Apple could launch a new iPad Pro and iMac models heading into their spring-loaded event. Guess when that spring-loaded event? Yeah, it's on April 20th. So we'll see if that is a loaded event or not. So we've got some iPad Pro models, a mini LED iPad Pro model. We've got redesigned iMacs, which is interesting. So I'm actually recording this on an iMac. Tell you what, if they could be a buying opportunity for someone like me because I might want to buy a new one. We'll see what happens there. We've got these AirPods, these AirTags, which have long been rumored. AirTags is like you can put it on your key ring. You could put it on maybe your pet. You could put it on, I guess you could put it on your kids or something if you really wanted to do that. But it basically tracks wherever this AirTag is. It tracks where it is. You can get on your iPhone and see where it is. So kind of like the way Find My iPhone works or Find Friends, that I think that it's not an app anymore, but you used to be able to see other people or other things. Now you can do that with tags, and you can, again, theoretically put it in your car, put it on a valuable piece of equipment, whatever it is. Could be an interesting business for Apple as well. So we'll see how much stuff gets released in the spring loaded. I think we're for sure going to see an iPad Pro and probably another Macintosh computer. I think they've done enough development with their chips that we'll see that as well. Now, moving on. This was just an interesting one that caught my eye. Pinterest is reporting, I think, on 4/27. That's just off the top of my head. Not exactly sure if that's correct or not, but Pinterest dropped 9% this week. And that could potentially, whenever I see a stock like this, like a pretty major stock, Pinterest had been on a monster run. It appears over the last several months, this thing has just been consolidating sideways. I think it kind of gapped up. Yeah, that's what happened. This thing was down in $30 and it just went from 30 to 60 like in a month or so. And it's basically been hanging out. Now it came all the way up to 80 and actually retested 80 and came back down. But we see now we printed a big, gigantic red candle here, and I kind of like it when companies that we've looked into Pinterest here on the channel. We've done a few videos here on Pinterest, and I like what they've got going on. And so, when you see these big red candles, something that you can kind of keep in mind. Now, I don't necessarily think right now is a buying opportunity, but when big red candles have showed up on Pinterest, we saw it showed up here from 80 to about 76. Well, this thing went off by another $15 down to $60. I think down in these boxes from, I would say about $61 up to $68 could potentially be a buying opportunity, because you've seen, since November, this $64 range has acted as support for Pinterest. Now, you have to keep in mind they are reporting earnings in 2 weeks, so you got to factor that in mind. If you do a buy before earnings, you might want to size that appropriately. So that was Pinterest. Now, Coinbase, we talked about on last week's show. I said I might potentially buy this one. I've got my IRA portfolio up here. I've got my Robinhood portfolio up here, primarily to talk about Doge, but we'll reveal that portfolio here in a minute. Did I buy Coinbase? And I will say at the moment, no, I did not buy Coinbase. And I'll tell you why. Just one reason why is because Coinbase is tied directly to cryptocurrency. Okay, I'll bring up my Coinbase app or my Coinbase account here, and you can see here I started Coinbase with just a measly $20, and I don't think I've really put a lot into this. I think that my account balance right now is $5,645. Doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm pretty sure I only put about $200 into this. I probably only put maybe 200. So you can see here's my Bitcoin wallet, and you see here I started with $1, $20, $60, $40. I only have that's like 120, we'll call it $125 that is now worth in excess of $5,000. So obviously, do I wish I would have put a little bit more in here? Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, look, first of all, if you want to help out the channel, you don't have a Coinbase, you've thought about it, I'm going to put a link in the description below. It's basically one of those referral links. I don't do this very often here on the channel, but if you would like to get hooked up with Coinbase, it looks like if you buy your first $100 on Coinbase of Bitcoin or any other of these cryptos on here, you'll get $10. So it's basically like 10% back, and I'll get $10. You'll get me $10 of Bitcoin as well. Now, what I thought was interesting on Coinbase is once you get approved, you can earn rewards. So you can come here to earn rewards, and you actually like get things that it doesn't look like they have a lot of offers up right now. But what I thought was interesting is you actually can, I earned these stellar lumens, this compound. I didn't pay anything for this. All I had to do was watch videos to get this. And this stuff is worth, this is like $30 or $40. It was definitely worth my time. And obviously investing in crypto has been extraordinarily popular for me. Now, the reason why I didn't invest in the Coinbase IPO or the Coinbase direct listing, to be more specific, is because you just saw my performance in Bitcoin. My performance in Bitcoin is astronomical. I've turned $100 and some odd dollars into $5,000 worth of Bitcoin. When we get over to the Dogecoin, you can see here on my Robinhood account, here's my Dogecoin. Okay, I have just a 488% return on Dogecoin. Okay, Dogecoin, I put just out of a flyer, $205 in, and now it's worth $1,200. Okay, do I think that the Coinbase stock going to have that type of performance? I don't think so. So I think Coinbase is a stock that I'll probably get into at some point. But I think I'd rather just buy Bitcoin. I'd rather buy Ethereum. I'd rather buy maybe Dogecoin. We'll talk a little bit more about Dogecoin in a minute. But from a technical perspective, it looked like we made just very, very short term. Obviously, this thing's only been trading for a couple days. I'm on a 15-minute chart to just give us an idea here. This thing bottomed out right at that 320 range. If it pulls, we're at 344 on Coinbase right now. A pull back down to 320 could potentially be a buying opportunity for Coinbase. I'm not exactly sure. Now, who's been buying Coinbase? Kathy Woods, Ark Invest, now owns about $350 million of this thing. Man, she has been loading up on Coinbase. If you get the alerts on what she's been buying, she has been loading up on this one. Now, the average price target of coin is $520. That's over 60% above current levels, which again is a lot for a stock. But when you look at Bitcoin or like a Dogecoin or Ethereum, these things are up like 60% in a week sometimes even more than that. And so I'm still not ready to allocate money in my portfolio to this one, but it is an interesting one nonetheless. Now, moving on to our favorite cryptocurrency, not really, but it has been one that to watch this week, and that is Dogecoin. It has been absolutely on fire. Now, it has pulled back a little bit. We'll talk about that when we take a look at the Dogecoin chart, but Robinhood crypto has seen outages, and I know this because Bitcoin actually pulled back to a level. Just really quick, we'll discuss Bitcoin here. Now, Bitcoin, we talked about last week on the show, I think it was like somewhere in here, that the potential of this thing popping up over 60,000 was really high for a number of reasons. Just technically, it looked like it wanted to do that. Number two, Coinbase listing on the stock exchange would likely create a lot of interest in this. And boy, did we see that. The crypto outages on Robinhood, you'd put in an order to buy Bitcoin or any other crypto, and it would sometimes fill 20, 30, 40 minutes later. So it was taking some time. Now, we did have a pullback in Bitcoin a little bit to the 60,000 mark. I think psychologically, the 60,000 mark, which is right about here, is kind of a psychological area. Again, we saw that Bitcoin went up. It's more technically right in this 58, 59,000 level. Give or take $1,000 on when you're talking about $60,000 is not a lot. So we call this the $60,000 level, and it hit its head on that, several times over several months. And so once it broke above, in my opinion, now that 60,000 area is kind of a level of support. And it's a level where if you don't have any Bitcoin, or if you're like me, you have some, this is where I've added to it a little bit, not a full portfolio, not a big allocation, but I've added a little bit here. I'll even show it to you when I reveal my Robinhood account. We'll show that I've bought some Bitcoin here in these areas. So I like this pullback down to 60. We're at 60.50 right now. Okay, it's hanging on a ledge. You break this 60 level and the odds of you coming back to 58, 57 are, I wouldn't say high, but it's definitely more probable as you move closer to that area. So, but this could potentially be an area of support. Area of support knows that we can trigger back up here to 65. Boy, that's an 8-9% move on this one. So, big outages caused because you had this big gigantic Dogecoin. Let's expand this chart on Dogecoin. I've gotten a lot of questions, especially from friends and family and things of that nature. People that are wondering, what the heck is this Dogecoin? Here's the deal with Dogecoin. First of all, it is not like Bitcoin in the fact that it has a hard cap on it. Okay, Bitcoin, there is only a certain amount of Bitcoin that will be released to the public. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's tens of millions of Bitcoin. Now, some of them get lost as well. So in circulation, there is a finite amount of Bitcoin, and there's only going to be that amount. There's never going to be any more created, and that's what surges. That's one of the reasons why Bitcoin has been an attractive investment, because it's not like shares of stock which get released all the time. It's not like a lot of other things that theoretically have like almost an infinite amount that could be added, like the United States dollar or something like that. The government can just print more and more and more of it. Okay. So there is a finite. Now, Dogecoin is kind of like the United States dollar. There is theoretically, in this case, definitely an infinite amount of Dogecoin can be created and kind of released into the supply. So a coin like this relies primarily on hype. Okay, relies primarily on demand. Okay, as demand wanes, this thing's going to go down. As the hype and demand increases, the price is going to go up. So, two ways you can look at that. In some ways, it's not, in my opinion, it's not as good as a Bitcoin investment, but you can technically read these charts, I think, because it's simply just a supply. This is simply, there's not a lot of fundamentals here, okay? There's not a company behind this. There's not a CEO. There's not an industry behind this. It is simply trading on supply and demand, okay? Now, again, you got to keep in mind that the supply is theoretically infinite on this one. So supply can increase at any time, and that could increase, affect demand going forward. Now, it had a monster rise. This is literally a 1 week chart. Okay, we were at 7 cents, 5, 6, 7 cents on this one. It rallied in a week all the way up to 50 cents, which is just extraordinarily, in my opinion. Now we've pulled back, and now we've pulled back to what I would consider kind of an interesting spot here, right at 25 cents a Dogecoin. Okay, that's where we consolidated here for like 2 days. I know this is crazy. Okay, but we did consolidate here for 2 days. It's a natural spot for Dogecoin to kind of settle. But if you do break this 25 cent, you're coming down to 20. You break 20, you're coming all the way back down to 15. Okay. But if you can find footing with Dogecoin here, you can get a little bit more hype, a little bit more demand for it. You've got all these candles up here with buyers. Okay. So as it comes up, you got 30, 35, 40, back up to 50. We'll see if it's able to do that. Okay. We've seen Doge have these epic rises. Okay. It rose here up over 30 cents, came all the way back down into the, low 20s, and then went all the way back up to 50. Okay, so this is a pretty epic drawdown, though. We went from darn near close to 50 all the way back down into the low to mid 20s. That's an epic drawdown. So again, this thing, but if you take a more broad view, here it is kind of on a 1 monthly chart. Here's a 3 month chart. You're still seeing, just whenever you see these big gigantic hockey sticks, we saw it with Nikola stock. We saw it with a lot of these EV stocks, Plug Power, Fuel Cell, a lot of these stocks. When you look at the monthly or the yearly view, they have these, very insignificant price action and then big gigantic moves up. What often happens is you have pretty big drawdowns on this one. So I wouldn't necessarily think this is the next thing, but here's the thing. Dogecoin currently has 5-to-1 odds, which is according to the bookmakers out there, is a 16.7 implied probability. So according to people that bet on the price of Dogecoin, there's a 16.7 implied probability that it reaches more than $1 by the end of 2021. And that is up significantly from 33-to-1. So as the Dogecoin rises, obviously the probability of it heading to $1 increases. So would I buy more Doge? No. Personally, I have enough of it. I have $200 of it. It's worth $1,200. If it goes up, that's great. If it doesn't, look, it was just $200. Now, here's my Robinhood account. It's time to reveal my portfolio to you, and we'll wrap things up here on the channel. I've had extraordinary results in my Robinhood account. You see here, over the last year in this one, we are up, just 272%. Find me some other YouTubers out there or any finance people out there that are up just 272% on their Robinhood account. Now, I am using some margin in this one, primarily because it is so cheap to use. And so when you see this total account balance here, keep in mind that I'm using about $3,000 worth of Robinhood's money. So I just wanted to throw that out there. My all performance, man, I tell you what, this last year has just been explosive for me. I am up 349%. I started this account back in 2016 with about $2,000. As I recall, I started this with about $2,000. I put regular deposits of $10 a week, so $40 a month go into this one, and I really don't deposit really anything else outside of that into this account. But 272% over the last year. Over the last 3 months, we're up, just 54%. Boy, it's pretty good. Over the last month, we are up 22% on this one. So obviously, if I can continue those types of return, this portfolio can continue to rip higher. Now, I don't necessarily recommend buying any of these stocks. I kind of just willy-nilly. It's interesting. I have such tremendous performance in this portfolio. And I don't really, I don't want to say I don't take it seriously, but I don't necessarily have a strong strategy. I tend to buy the dips on this one. This is definitely my speculative portfolio. Okay. This is not what I would bank my whole retirement on. Now I have some stocks in here like AT&T, Verizon, Pfizer. I have some stocks in here that are less speculative, but I have a lot of speculative stuff. Take a look at this. This is probably the last penny stock that I bought. So I bought this Joint Chiropractic stock. This is a franchise of chiropractics. My average cost is $2.89. I have just $115 in this, and the market value is at $2,000. Now you might wonder, why don't I talk about penny stocks? Why don't I buy stocks anymore at this $2 range? To me, it's a lot of work. Number one, it's a lot of work, but here, take a look at Facebook. So obviously everybody knows about Facebook. And if this would load, this would be awesome. And we could take a look at Facebook. So I'm going to click on my Facebook shares again and see if they come up. Here they are. Boom. Okay, look at my return on Facebook. Total return, 75%. My average cost on this is $427, and I got a market value of $750. So I like more investments like this. I think they're safer over the long run. Now, last thing I want to show you in my portfolio is my crypto. So I'm up $1,000 in Dogecoin. I'm up about $1,000, which is just incredible. I would have never expected that. I'm up about $1,000 in this Bitcoin. This Bitcoin has just been ripping higher. You see my cost on my Bitcoin is $1,331, and it's just been absolutely, I basically almost doubled my money, up 80% in this one. But I consistently buy this. I look at Bitcoin as a much, much longer term investment, and it's something that I'm not looking to sell over a long period of time. Now, moving over to my IRA account, you'll see that I've got about $52,000 in this one. The way I handle this one is the maximum contribution that I can make into this is $6,000 per year, which is very close to $100 a week. So there's 52 weeks in a year. You do $100 a week and you get $5,200. And what I do is I'll top it off with another $800. At some point, maybe last year, I think I did it earlier because we had that big drawdown in March. I deposited more money, just thinking there might be some good buying opportunities. Sometimes I do it towards the end of the year for tax purposes. You see, we're in probably about the 16th week here in terms of where we're at, and I've deposited $1,600 in this one. Now I've got $600 in cash, but the other thing I want to show you is I hold cash sometimes in just this S-tip, which is like just treasuries. I've got about $2,000 in that. So I really have got about $2,600 in cash on a $52,000 portfolio. So that's we'll call that about 5% cash. That's about where I like to be. Now, sometimes I'm a little more, but usually not much less than that. Now, my best performing stock in this one, NVIDIA, up just 287%. I've got $1,900 in that. Apple has been a very strong performer. My cost basis on Apple is $38 per share, and it's sitting at about $134 right now. I'm up about $5,000 in that one. Nike, just timed this one very well over the course of a year or two. My cost basis on that one is $57. That's sitting at $134. We're up about 132% on that one. Starbucks, interestingly enough, so people are always talking about, in terms of how you pick stocks, pick what you know, in general, I would say that. Look, I haven't drank a sip of coffee or anything from Starbucks, and I might have had a Starbucks like 4 or 5 times in my life, maybe like a hot chocolate or maybe a snack or something from there, but I don't go to Starbucks very much, and it is one of my best performing stocks, up 100%. I'm at $59 on this one. It's sitting at $119. Now, way overweight Amazon, not recommending this one. Okay, so here we are with Amazon. I've got $13,600 worth of Amazon. I've got 4 shares. That is mega overweight. Okay, I've got $52,000 in the portfolio. I've got $13,000 on Amazon. Just shows you though how much I believe in this one. This one's up 96%. Google, sure wish I bought more than one share because I bought one share at $1,199. This one's sitting at about $2,280 at the current moment. Facebook, have lots of this one, 14 shares, but my wife has an IRA account as well. I think she's got maybe 25 shares at an even lower cost than this one. I'm in Facebook for $167. It's currently sitting at $306. GM, I bought these shares when it was government motors. Okay, the government had bought GM as part of the financial crisis, and then it spun it out sometime in 2011. So you'll see here, I bought this a long time ago, 10 years ago. So you see here, it's up 75%. It's not really that great a return, but thankfully I don't have that much money tied up into this one, but it is up 75%. Tesla, sure wish I had more than one share of this one, but right now that's what I've got. I'm in it for $427. It's sitting at $740. Here's some bank stocks. Here's my biggest bank exposure. I've got a little bit in my Dogecoin, my Robinhood portfolio as well, but Bank of America sitting at 61% return. I've got 24 shares of that one. That's a dividend growth play for me. Okay, Bank of America, if you watched our video that I posted about it earlier this week, they're going to raise the dividend and they're going to keep raising it and they're going to buy back shares. That is going to give you dividend growth over a long period of time. This Bank of America investment, while it's not as sexy as my Nvidia or Dogecoin or Bitcoin or whatever, over the long term, it is just going to be something that pays off very well. Now, Disney, I've got 9 shares. I'm in it at 116. It's at 187. Visa, really like this stock. Okay, this is something that I would like to add to more. I'm in at 145. That's at 226 at the current time. Veru. Honestly, I bought this. When did I buy this? I bought this back in 2014, so pretty long time ago. And I'm in it for $6.06 per share. It's currently at $9.42. I think it was higher than that, but up 42%. It's one of the few speculative stocks that I have in this entire portfolio. Wouldn't recommend it, not necessarily. Now, more bank stocks, JP Morgan, I've got 6 shares. This is something I actually started last year. I didn't own JPM until last year. And here we're sitting at a 40% return in just about a year's time. We've got Limited Brands. This is a stock I've held for a long time. I had way more than this at one time. This is a stock. When did I start buying this one? Limited Brands 2012. So I've had this one for a long time, up only 30% over that time, but this doesn't factor in some dividend. I've gotten a lot of dividend payments on this one. We've got Walmart, another stock that I think I started buying just last year. Yeah, February of last year, and a little bit more as we've gone on. Up 30% in about a year on that one. That's solid as well. We've got CVX, which I think is Chevron. Started buying that in 2015. I think I added to it again in 2020. Yeah, just another share of that one, but solid performer, 28%. Again, you're playing the dividend in that one as well. Pepsi, again, consistent performer. One I started buying last year at 115. Yeah, right here. I bought 2 shares at 115. That's sitting at 144. Got the XLE energy play. Love that as well. That has been going up as well. I think I actually started that this year. So that's just in about 3 or 4 months. That's up 17%. That was a nice investment there as well. Then we got Verizon sitting down here. Started that in 2015. I'm in that for 49. It's at 58. This doesn't include a lot of dividend. Okay, tons and tons of dividends on this one. Lockheed Martin. So I actually did a video on this one, I think at the beginning of the year, and I actually bought it. Okay, I only bought 1 share, but I'm up 16% in about 3 months on that one. That one's nice. Again, this is why I love doing the videos here on the channel. Okay, yeah, I make a little bit of money from YouTube on these videos, but I've probably made as much or more just by buying these stocks. Okay, I started buying WBA. That was back in January. So year to date, I'm about 15% on that one. So here's Costco, another stock that I love, up 13%. Microsoft, I'm trying to inch into this one. I'm doing a very good job of that since I only have 1 share, but that one's up 12% as well. Got Realty Income is sitting here at 11% return. Had that one for a long time. Again, a dividend play. AMD, I'm inching into this one. It's up only 3%, but I like this one. I'm in it for about $500. I probably got another 100 or 2, maybe 1 or 2 more shares that I'd like to add on to that one. STIP, again, is just me holding cash here, earn a little bit of return on this. And so I've got about 2,000. When I need to buy something, I'll sell. I'll either use the cash that I have, and if I run out, I can sell this. I've got Ark speculative healthcare right here. Okay, I've talked about how I've bought this. I'm down 6% on this one. Not really too worried about this. This is something I've only got $350 in. Probably looking to get to about 1,000, but over a period of time. So I'm going to see what happens. AT&T down here, one of my few losing stocks as well, down 9%, but that doesn't include all the dividends I've gotten in this one. I probably started with 25 shares, so I've gotten basically 4 free shares of this one, so that's factored in. I'm probably actually, when you factor in the dividend, I'm probably up on this one. And now finally, my worst investment, down 18%. When did I first started buying COP, which is ConocoPhillips? Back in 2014. I'm in this one for $62, but as you can see here, there's lots of little transaction. That's because it does pay a dividend as well. So while I'm probably underwater on this one, it's not that bad. And when you factor in all these stocks, look at all these stocks I've got in my portfolio, and you saw that I've owned some of these stocks for a very long time. Okay, I've owned, Limited Brands and GM. I've had this portfolio for well over 10 years. To have only 3 stocks be down and some of them up hundreds of percent, I think is pretty strong performance. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. That's our Saturday recap show. I'll show you what is reporting earnings next week. We are absolutely going to do videos on Netflix, Verizon, AT&T, Intel, Snapchat, Coca-Cola probably as well, since it's early in this week. And then maybe leave me a comment down below. Maybe there's a company you'd like to see as well. Hopefully you guys have a great weekend. That wraps it up for today's show. Good luck with your investments.